Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all our students. Allow me to take this time to say welcome to Applied Leadership Module 4. We are going to proceed with our sessions in Module 4, and I will take a little bit of time to explain to us very important issues that we need to understand as we look at applied leadership. At this particular time, it is important for all of you to understand that applied leadership is not just a leadership that we all just rush for to talk about, but rather it's an art that you and I need to embrace. You need to understand that it's an art that you and I need to embrace. So, those of you that will catch the lessons later, let me know how is the sound. At first, you said there's a noise. There's a noise. Has that been sorted out? Has that been sorted out? All right. Let me make sure that that has been eradicated because I needed to change the cables on the microphones. All right, back again into module 4 of our leadership. And in this class, okay, it's clear. Thank you so very much. So in this session, we are going to look at very important topic, which I want each one of you to pay close attention. Remember, this is applied leadership, where we train you not just to be leaders, but also we train you to make sure that you understand what leadership is and what involves leadership. So, those of you that will join us a bit later, we want to go straight and look at what exactly we'll be talking about in this particular matter and in this particular subject. So, let us go straight away into the lesson for today. I want you to follow me. Let's look at self-leadership. So in module 4, we are looking at self-leadership. Self-leadership. What is self-leadership? As we grow, we learn to become leaders. Being a leader is natural for some and is learned for others. No matter how we have become a leader, it is important to remember we must lead ourselves before we lead others. Take the time to motivate yourself and realize that you can do it. Okay. With our self-leadership module, you will discover the specifics of how to be a better leader for yourself and for others. You will be able to guide yourself in positive ways and in positive words, which equals to success or which equals success. So I want you to follow me from right here and right there to realize that self-leadership is very important. Self-leadership is very important. So follow me through as we continue to progress, as we look into step by step of what is this self-leadership that we are talking about. Because most of us, if we do not realize and recognize the importance of self-leadership, we will find ourselves in a challenge. We will find ourselves in a challenge. So if those of you that are following, remember, this is very key for each one of our students and each one of those that are following out there. Those that are on Twitch studio, we are not using Facebook, we are using Twitch, and we are also live on Twitter. We are live on Twitch and we are live on Twitter. and we are live on YouTube as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back and begin to elaborate the issues of self leadership in applied leadership. I've just given you examples that we are going to look at, things that we are going to look at. So let's begin by identifying intention. Okay. And we can see, I put up the head of a man there, or the head of a woman, but the head of a person out there. And we are looking at very important elements that we are going to deal with. So I've got intention there that has been put in. What is your intent as a leader? You must also recognize that, and we must also get to the level of appreciating that element. What is your intention as a leader? So in intention, we are talking about influence and impact. You are going to realize that these three keys are very important for you as a leader. Number one, self-awareness. Self-awareness. Are you aware of yourself? Are you aware of yourself? Every leader must reach to self-consciousness. Self-consciousness. Every leader must reach to self-consciousness, meaning, are you aware of yourself? Are you aware of your responsibility? Are you aware of your roles? Are you aware of who you are, what you ought to do? It is called self-awareness. I always find this to be very important, mostly when students and when leaders do not figure out their role. When leaders do not figure out their role. Most of the time, many leaders fail to figure out their role because of lack of self-awareness. Lack of self-awareness. So the first thing is self-awareness, where you recognize who you are. Now, remember that leadership, like we have said, leadership can be learned and others are born, but nevertheless, self-leadership is very key. As we look into this module where we are discussing self-leadership, you must understand that it is important that for you to attain influence and impact, your intention must be very clear. Let's look at this part of self-awareness. What are some of the hindrances to self-awareness? Number one is the failure to recognize their new role and responsibility. Failure to recognize your new role and responsibility. This has been very common to people, more especially if you're working in the corporate and then you are promoted. Let's say you were working in let's say a managerial position. You were in a managerial position, like maybe you were at the middle management. Then now, all of a sudden, you are promoted. Those of you who are following on Twitch, thank you very much. Yeah, I see so many people coming on Twitch. We are using Twitch, and today we are on Twitch. We are not on Facebook. We are on Twitch, and I'm recording also on Twitter. Then, therefore, we will send it to our students from the YouTube side. But our other students are following us on Twitch. Okay, Twitch is a different application as well. Here we are on StreamYard in another class. So I'm saying that it is important for you to realize that those that are elevated from middle class or middle management to senior management, we find it difficult to adjust to our new role and responsibility. Why? Because we are going into a beyond comfort zone. We are going into a beyond comfort zone. So self-awareness becomes a challenge to realize your new role and your position. To realize your new role and your position. Many people want others to help them realize, but as a leader, you must always realize your new role and your position. Now, it is that gap of changing the roles. When you are now switching the roles, that's where the challenges are, because you are so comfortable in the other side. all of a sudden you have to change your role. I appreciated so very much when I had an opportunity to work with some heads of state from one country. I had a close relationship, and I noticed something that he told me to say whenever we wanted to call them as a head of state, whenever we wanted to call them, they gave us specific time because it is the only time they are able to answer phones by themselves. The rest of the day, their phones have to be with other people or other PAs and arm bearers, bodyguards, and all that. They have to pick up the calls. Now, what is the challenge there? The challenge is that let's say you are used to answering your own phone. You are used to answering your own phone. Then you are now moved into a new role that which demands you to hand over all your information. Now, if you are a sensitive person with a lot of sensitive information, you struggle at that point because whenever your phone rings, you would wish to grab it, but then you discover that responsibility is no longer yours, but somebody else. What does that mean? That means that you are now getting to self-awareness. So you have to keep reminding yourself now that you are, let's say if you are a president or you are a prime minister or you are a mayor or you are a, what's other? Yeah, usually those responsibilities that have to do with public office. Remember that you are now the property of the public and you are not the property of your family or of yourself. So there is that self-awareness that has to come. So let's look at the other element there. So that was self-awareness. Let's look at the second one is self-confidence. Self-confidence. Now, you get to realize this, that it is important for you as a leader to understand and develop self-confidence. To understand and develop self-confidence, because if you do not develop self-confidence, you are going to have a lot of pitfalls, because it is here that when a leader lacks self-confidence, he will not be able to lead, but others will lead him. It is at this particular time. So in applied leadership, remember, last week I said in Module 3, we echoed on giving tools and powers of influence. Tools and powers of influence. Now, when a president is being sworn in, I've always given this example. They are given a briefcase. And in that briefcase, nobody knows exactly what is inside there. Others, they say there is a constitution in there. Others, they say something else. But they don't open the briefcase, but they just uses it as instrument of powers. Remember that thing. It's called instrument of powers. Then when they give them that, the same thing when the speaker is being, they carry what they call the mace. The mace is the symbol that the speaker, when the speaker is entering the National Assembly, you hear the sergeant at arms announcing the arrival of the speaker. When the speaker is carrying that, when the sergeant at arms is carrying that thing, when they announce the coming in of the speaker, what does that imply? That implies that now the authority of the speaker, the same person, the authority of the speaker is what is going to speak in. So as a leader, you discover that briefcase they give a leader, maybe a president or whatever, it's called the instrument of powers. Now, that instrument of powers, when you are speaking, at that time, because of just that symbol that you have what we call self-confidence. It's like those of you who are married, right? It's like those of you who are married. One thing that I can say to us, all right, it's like those of you that are married, and one thing that I can say to you, if you are married, you discover that, sorry, Mr. Laxon, I didn't know that you were not, you were muted. Sorry. Welcome. Yeah, it's like those that are married, and then you have what we call self confidence by, let's say when people get married, they give them that thing called a certificate, a marriage certificate. The marriage certificate has nothing special about it so much, but the marriage certificate is just there to show the confidence that this person is legally married. What does that mean? That simply means that it helps you to develop self-confidence. Now, there is a subject that I used to teach, and I teach this subject on consultancy. When they call us to do consultancy with government and they call consultants with leaders, there is what I call statecraft. When we are teaching people that are involved in parastatals and government work, there's what we call statecraft, where you develop the people's behavior towards their job. Behavior towards their job. Self-confidence is key to your self-leadership. Self-confidence is key to your self-leadership. What do I mean? That simply means your walk as a leader is very key. Your talk as a leader, your tone of a voice as a leader. I wish you can see me when I used to do politics, and then I'm speaking as a politician. I don't speak like I'm lecturing, I speak with authority. I speak with confidence. It's called self-leadership. I like when the pastor is blessing my pastors, and when they are blessing a marriage, or when they are blessing specifically marriages, and then you hear them say, according to the power vested in me, I pronounce. Now you listen to that. According to the power vested in me, then you are wearing those robes, and you are speaking with a certain authoritative tone. When you have self-confidence, then you are leading yourself, then others can emulate and can salute your leadership. The second part that I want to look at is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy. If you have to achieve influence and impact, I said number one, self-awareness. Number two, self-confidence. Number three, self-efficacy. That is why you are in this class. Study, prepare, go through, train yourself so that you can be able to be efficient enough. You can be able to be efficient enough. So when you speak into people, they'll be able to say, yes, you know the subject matter you are talking about. Most of our leaders do not read. Most of our leaders are not properly schooled. That is the reason why we have this course called Applied Leadership, so that we can help, that our leaders can begin to get this information and prepare themselves. Let's go to the next slide number 2. Okay. Therefore, what is self-leadership? We have continued to define. So we are still dealing with definitions now. Self-leadership, somebody said, AKA personal mastery, is the answer to how do we develop ourselves to survive and thrive in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Self-leadership is the critical success factor for individual and organizational success. Let me say that again. Self-leadership is the critical success factor for individual and organizational factor. At this point, you must also understand that self-leadership will help us to attain and develop what we call success factors. Let me move on quickly and look at self-leadership. Self-leadership definition is having a developed sense of who you are. Let me say that again. It's important that I emphasize on some things. Self-leadership is having a developed sense of who you are, what you can do, where you are going, coupled with the ability to influence your communication, 1, 2, your emotions, 3, your behavior on the way to getting there. This definition was given to us by Brian Cousin in 2012. Brian Cousin, 2012. I'm waiting for you to write that. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. So we are defining there. Let's go. And let's discuss this one. The concept of self-leadership can be found in the writings of philosophers and poets for both the Eastern and the Western worlds. Let me say that again. The concept of self-leadership can be found in writings of philosophers and poets for both Eastern and Western poets. Now, when we talk about Eastern, we are talking about the English culture. When we talk about, when we talk about Western, we're talking about the English culture. When we talk about Eastern, we are talking about the Indian, the Chinese, and going up there, the Asian speech. We discover that self-leadership is a concept that it's a bedrock for success. Let's look at Lao Tzu. This one, Lao Tzu, was from an Eastern philosopher. Lao Tzu is an Eastern philosopher. Lao is L-A-O. Tzu is T-Z-U. He says, mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. He says, mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. There is a course, those of you that we will advance, which you are going to do. It's a military training for self-awareness, which is called Solving People Puzzle, which teaches us on your strength and how you go into versatility. But later on, we'll look at when we deal with personality types, we can talk about that. You need to know your weaknesses and you need to know your strength as a leader. You need to know your weaknesses and you need to know your strength. When you know your weaknesses, you will be able to avoid certain things. When you know your strength, you will be able to know how to achieve certain things. So Lao Tzu there says to us, mastering others is a strength, but mastering yourself is true power. Let's look at Henley. Henley is a Western philosopher, meaning the English philosopher. This was done, I think, 1982. Henley said, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. He said, I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. Meaning that he has got self-consciousness of who he is. Self-consciousness of who he is. Let us progress. And at this particular time, let's get a bit what I call didactical now. Let's go into the didactics of self-development or self-leadership. Let's go on to that. Let's get a bit didactical there on self-development. I've got a diagram there, which I have put up there on the slide. Developing self-leadership. Number one, I'm going to say self-understanding. Half on the side, self-change. Let's look at the progress. Remember that all this gets to the progress. Remember, you must know your fate and you must know where you are going. Knowing where you are and knowing where you are going. As a leader, we have been speaking about vision. We've been speaking last week about goal setting. We have talked about how to set your goals, how to develop a network structure. So all these things that we have spoken about, we are now progressing. Let's look at self-understanding. In self-understanding, there is what we call the needed/desired performance. The needed/desired performance. This is exactly what you want to achieve. Okay? We come down there, we look at what we call current performance. Now, you are in an organization there. You are looking at leading the whole organization, but you're also involved. So you are saying to yourself, what is the needed performance or the desired performance? And what is the current performance? There is what we call the expectation and reality graph. The expectation and reality graph. So you must always look at that, saying from where we want to go and where we are, okay? What is the gap like? So you can see that gap that I've put up there. It is important that we move on and we look at everything that we are talking about right now. Ladies and gentlemen, when we look at the current performance and versus the needed desire, what's the gap? Okay, we have to look at what's the gap. Now, I want you to evaluate yourself right there. I want you to evaluate yourself. So, remember down there, we are saying feedback from others. The gap there is huge. You can see feedback from others. This has to do with your experience. Let's go. How does this work? How does this work? We have to look at how this one works. This is the way we are going to look at it. How does this one work? We must look at managing emotions. Okay? Managing emotions. We start from the bottom there. We go up to self-reflection. When you are under pressure, we look at managing emotions. Now we are at self-reflections, self-awareness. Then it gives us the gap. So this is the key factors that you use for your evaluation. Self-emotions, self-reflections, self-awareness, then look at the gap. Are we together? Let's go to self-change on the other side. You see there's a gap there, but let's look at self-change. Self-change, we are looking at the direction which you are going to face or where you are going to direct your energies. Energy simply means your strength, the areas that you want to target. So remember last week we talked about goal commitment. Now, here we are not talking about goal commitment anymore, but we are talking about goal formulation. We are talking about goal formulation. It is important for us to have this understanding that when you have this gap now, remember you are looking at the needed performance versus your current performance in order to get to what you need. So we are now preparing ourselves and we say we have goal formation there. So our energies will target there. Okay, we are moving from goal formation, then we come down to goal striving. Goal striving. Now, when we get to goal striving, you are striving to attain certain results. You are striving to attain certain results. So you focus your energies there. How do you do that? Remember again, self-awareness, self-reflection, managing emotions will result into monitoring and evaluation. So you will have a monitoring and evaluation system. You will have a monitoring and evaluation system. Now, this is the question that I give to all our leaders. How many leaders, honestly speaking, for organizations, it's easy for us to set a monitoring and evaluation system and strategy. But for yourself, like myself, I must set up a monitoring and evaluation system so that I am improving towards my goal. I am making progress. So there must be accountability checks. I've always told people that leaders are always told lies because very few people tell leaders of what they want to achieve, or what the truth. I mean, very few people tell leaders the truth. So self-regulatory processes, that's what I was talking about. So as ourselves, we have to regulate ourselves. I'm learning to do that. And as a leader, I have to keep learning to follow things. Like right now, I have to begin to look at my time, look at this, so finish my class in time and follow this. So it's monitoring, you see. So that is very, very key. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, there you are. Pitfalls to self-leadership. What are the challenges to self-leadership? What are the issues that we need to deal with in self-leadership? When I say pitfalls, it simply means shortcomings, right? Or challenges that are found in self-leadership. Now, all the students that have been following us and those students in class, your assignments, those of you who are submitting your assignments today, please do so. And others, I gave you a day or two extra time so that you can be able to submit. Let's look at pitfalls to self-leadership. All right, number one, pitfalls to self-leadership, self-awareness. It's just coming from there now. Very few people, very few leaders are aware of themselves. Let's go. Number two, motivation. Very few leaders understand how to motivate themselves. Self-motivation. Being excited over a job. Somebody said to me the other day, one of the philosophers from the university that we work with, I was asking a question about what is work, and one of our philosophers, a PhD holder, said to me, work is turning an activity into a monetary gain. Work is turning an activity into a monetary gain. So that becomes your motivation. Because many leaders, they always feel, I just need to be at work if I report to somebody. No. As a leader, you must be self-motivated of what you do. Now, all this is key. Let's look at the other one. What are some of the pitfalls? Empathy. Sometimes we fail to lead because of empathy. Other leaders, they lack empathy. Other leaders are more empathetic. I'm not using the word sympathy. Empathy simply means putting yourself in the shoes of others, okay? Empathy means putting yourself in the shoes of others. So most of the people, most of our leaders, this becomes a pitfall. If you are a leader who is too empathetic, you find yourself not progressing. And if you are a leader who lacks empathy, you find yourself again not progressing. So you must always have empathy. Number 4, social skills. What are some of the social skills that you attain? What are some of the social skills that you have? So social skills are key. I was very happy when I saw during the time of the floods, and we have just gone through another storm last weekend. And well, we thank God not many lives were lost in this time. But during the last month floods, where we lost over 400 people, we saw the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, flying from wherever he was in Pretoria, coming down into KwaZulu-Natal, going to these homes, social skills. That shows the intelligence aspect of a leader. He came as a president, he removed his shoes and sat on the floor and mourned with the people. He did not sit in his jacket and tie and stand. Social skills. For example, you are a leader. You can't go to a football match with a jacket. It shows lack of social skills. As a leader, when you are working, let's say you are leading this organization, one of the skills that you need to do is team building. And when you are at work, create an activity where you can laugh, you can joke, you can dance. Do those kind of organization. I remember there is a pastor who I respected so much many years ago from Nigeria. He was the president of CAN, Christian Association of Nigeria, many years ago. There was a time that there were the rebels or the militant groups which had put the president of that time under pressure. And they didn't know how to disarm these militant groups. I'm not talking about Boko Haram. There was another militant group. I can't remember it well. Then this pastor, being the Christian council or whatever, he called the religious fraternity. And he told them to say he wanted to host the leaders of these militant groups. And everybody said, how is he going to do it? So he used what we call social intelligence. He managed to get hold of one of their leaders and he congratulated them for defending the people. Then he said he wanted to call them for lunch and he wanted to call them for a bribe. So he set up a very good place, a security place where the rebels, they came. And when they came, they had lunch, and then he stood out and began to entertain them. And as he was entertaining them, he spoke to them and he told them, guys, can we surrender these arms because this country belongs to all of us? Using social intelligence, social skills, he was able to allow or to let the militant groups drop all the weapons. The name of the pastor was called Pastor Ayo Orisejafo that time. I salute such people. I remember watching this on Al Jazeera. I said, wow, this is great for a religious leader to stop the war. It needed social skills. So as a leader, you must have social skills for self-leadership. We have already spoken number 5. It's self-regulations, which I've spoken about. All these, they culminate into what we call emotional intelligence. All these, they culminate in what we call emotional intelligence. So, guys, you must understand that as we are moving on step by step, let me now bring to you the last aspect of self-leadership. We have spoken on how self-leadership must be done, but let's go to the last slide and we look at self-leadership focus. Self-leadership focus or projection. Now, I'll go step by step. All these, they culminate into what we call the productive leader. All these, they culminate or they produce what we call the productive leader. Number 1, to lead yourself, you must know you are surrounded with people. So you must develop what we call interpersonal skills or people management skills. And some of them, you are going to discover them as we move forward. So you must know that you are not leading animals. You are leading people. People have got emotions. That's why you must be self-aware. You must be leading yourself before you lead others. And people focuses on relationships. So number 2 is relationships. So people, you must be aware of the people, the type of people you're leading. Then people focuses on relationships. And relationships, they are personal. I hope you are following what I'm doing here. Let me do it this way. Okay. I am saying you must focus on, you must realize that you are leading people. And with people, you must develop relationships at work or in an organization. And relationships, they are personal. They become personal. These things will show you how you can become a productive leader. Now, when you have this focus, you are going to discover that I am here. You will look at boundaries. They will help you to lift the boundaries which you might be having in your personal leadership. Because as a leader, if you are detached from the people, nobody will tell you what you need to improve. But when you have developed the relationships, it will help you to remove boundaries. Then, as a leader, you must also develop what we call clarity. Clarity. So these, they become very clear. And when you are able to communicate, it will be more clear than ever. Finally, remember always, as a leader, focus on professionalism. So self-leadership must now be professional. How do you institutionalize your leadership style? So by the end of the day, you must realize that these leadership, self-leadership by the end of the day, after you have become personal, after you have developed relationships, at the end of the day, it must be professional. These are the barriers of when you have your relatives in a company, in an organization, and you have to discipline them. You have to work with them. Remember always to maintain professionalism. There must be a gap between yourself and those you are leading. That helps us to develop professionalism. So self-leadership must always guide us and must help us that by the end of the day, we must be professional. Ladies and gentlemen, for today's session, we will end here with our session, Applied Leadership, Module 4, Self-Leadership. Those of you that will catch it later, you'll get the recorded sessions, and we will forward the notes to all our students. One more time, thank you so very much, and keep coming on. Assignments will be sent to you, but I was advised earlier on that we don't give you the assignment today, but rather on Thursday, because you have got one more module that you need to cover before I hand over the baton to another lecturer who is going to lead you again in a few lectures before myself. I come back and continue to share and continue to lecture on these subjects. I hope you are having a great time. So have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful evening. For those of you that are, because of time difference, I appreciate each one of you. You can send me your questions in my inbox. You can send me your concerns and your challenges, those of you with challenges. And if you're not able to meet up in class, let us know early so we can plan for your rescheduled class. For now, I appreciate each one of you. Thank you very much. See you again on Thursday, 10 o'clock South African time. Bye-bye.
Doc, thank you.
Thank you.